And it's a necessity. You're right. And it's, in fact, it's a privilege that we have the technology to be able to do that. And even the technology to be able to communicate with people across the country, across the world, from our fingertips. So these are privileges that we have. And so it's just about not misusing those privileges and using it to your advantage and not to your disadvantage. I mean, I'm extremely pro technology. 100% of my work is over, on screen.
Same thing.
100% on
Same
screen.
thing
Yeah.
with me. Could you
Yeah.
imagine COVID-19 with the shutdown? Could you
Yes.
imagine the lockdown, the shutdown? If people did not
Yeah.
have their phones, they would have
Yes.
been going even double mad within
Exactly.
the walls of their homes.
Yes.
Within the walls of their homes, doctors were able to communicate with patients over the
Exactly.
phone, and there were a lot of things that were happening. So the phone is an ideal. I think it's a
Yes.
necessity. It should be there, but we need to use it like everything else for the right
Yes.
purpose. So wonderful. It's always a pleasure again. I mean, that's why we have people like you who are the experts in this kind of field. You know, sometimes someone like me from the religious perspective telling people something, they may think, well, that's just his religious opinion. But let's hear it from a medical doctor, from the scientist. And you are, the medical profession here. So it's good to hear it, and it's good for people like us to talk. You, myself, we get a
Yes.
balance with science and medicine and religion, and that
Yes.
is a beautiful balance in today's time.
Yeah,
Interesting.
absolutely. I mean, that brings me to, I was wondering because, being a sheikh, your expertise as, as a role model in the community is very important. And a lot of what I deal with, along with people's mental health, is their family dynamics and how their family affects them and how they function based on their family dynamics within the household. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about your background, if you don't mind sharing, as a family person, what were you like as a son and then, how you sort of transitioned from being a son to a husband and a father. And if you could share a little bit about your journey, because I think we need to know about our sheikhs and what their development was, so that because you're a role model for the brothers and the sisters in the community, so it's important to know that, what that journey was like. And it just I'm kind of interested to know and ask you if you're okay with that,
Well, well, I mean, you are a psychiatrist and you're a therapist, so it's good to be asking me that. No problem. I have no problem. I have no objection. And that would definitely help me and help our viewers and may help you with other clients, etc.
Yes,
So, where do we
absolutely.
start from? My journey is an interesting journey.
So, I mean, are you, you being who you are, tell me a little bit about that. Are you the only child of your parents? Do you have siblings? What was that like when, were you an only child for a long time before you had siblings? Because you have a very strong relationship with your parents,
Yes,
that
yes.
contain. So I wanted to know a little bit about that.
So, basically, my parents were their grandparents, grandparents. So my
Mhm.
great grandparents came from India and they were brought by the British to the Caribbean. And
Mhm.
we're talking many, 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 many years ago, over 175 years, more or less. So we grew up very diverse in Trinidad, in the Caribbean.
Ah,
Very
right.
diverse. Muslims, Christians,
Mhm.
Hindus.
Yeah.
India is a very interesting place with different cultures and different religions and different teachings. So that
Yeah.
was one aspect of our life.
Yeah.
And yes, I have one brother and I have one sister. My
Okay.
brother is about my brother is about 7 years younger than me, and
Okay.
my sister may be about 20. I think about 23 years, something like that, younger than me. Yeah.
Oh,
However,
wow.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. So my mother gave birth to my sister when my mom was 40 years of age,
Oh,
and that is
wow.
interesting. Also interesting. So I grew up. I mean, this could be very emotional, but I grew up with one brother, from a poor family as usual. That's always the history, and it's a great learning. It's a great
Yeah.
learning.
Yes.
And I had a little brother, my parents tell me, and I could barely remember. I was like about 2 or 3 years, I think, when that
Mm-hmm.
little brother passed away at the age of 10 months. A baby.
Oh.
My parents had a baby boy, and I have to
Oh.
relate that because that will help you understand my story.
Yes, of
So he
course.
was
It's
only
very
10 months, 10 months. So my
wow.
parents lost him.
Oh.
So that can tell you what happened to me. So now
Yeah.
I am the only child for my parents. So I'm like, as we say, the eyeball of my parents. Lost
Certainly.
one. So
Oh,
I,
yeah.
I do not feel ashamed to share this in the media. But
Good.
my mother would say this, and I have to say what she said. She said
Uh-huh.
he was brought up like a girl in the house. Meaning, they were so cautious with me. I couldn't go nowhere. I couldn't stay beyond time anyway when I was a little
Wow.
boy, four,
Uh-huh.
5, 6, 7 years. Remember, it's only when I
So
had
protective.
7 years my parents had another baby now. The other one
Yeah.
died at 10 months. So they
Right.
brought me up so close to nothing. No way could I go do anything. My
Oh,
father never allowed me to ride a bicycle on the street.
really?
Could you imagine?
Wow.
And I need to share that. So much
Yes.
they did not want to lose me. You lost one. You
Uh-huh.
see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Of course, they were
And
protective. Yeah.
and I gotta cut this long story. So it then happened. I went to study. So I had a brother born 7 years after me.
Okay.
Then I went to study at the age of 16 years in India. So could you
Oh, wow.
imagine? Now my
Yeah.
mother is and my father, they went into a whole different kind of stress.
Of
And
course.
they were happy to send me, but they felt
Yes.
like they were losing me.
Yes, of course.
And
You're their child. Yeah.
that brought now the my brother passing away at 10 months. The baby passing away at 10 months brought
Yes.
them closer to me, right? Then I
Yes.
went at 16 years, and you will not believe, my mother will keep my clothing. When I
Uh,
come back, I would see it when I came back from studying. She will
uh-huh.
miss me. She would cry. My parents, you would not believe. That's a whole, you know what I'm talking about.
I know.
45 years ago, you know what it
Uh-huh.
was? No telephone, no communication, no social
Right.
media. I would
Yeah.
write a letter from India. It will take sometimes a month to reach Trinidad.
Wow.
Sometimes, if the mail delays, it will take 2 and 3 months.
Oh
But
my. Yes.
basically, it was around a month. So
Yeah.
that kind of connection built a strong,
Yeah.
absence make the heart go fonder. And
Absolutely.
my parents became closer to me and closer to me and closer to me. Now, while I was
Wonderful.
studying there, I had a lot
Mm-hmm.
of students and friends who were my colleagues, and they would always talk about their sister and their
Uh-huh.
sisters. And I'm like, but I don't have a sister. I got a little brother because I
Uh,
left him home. Remember, I
yes.
left him home when he was 8 years, and I'm that
Wow.
boy that now grew up. And I
Yes.
told my parents, I wrote in a letter, and I told them, I said, how is it? I don't have a sister. My mom
Oh.
said, make dua. And my mom were not having children ever since
Uh-huh.
my brother. She
Oh,
just naturally were not having children ever since my
okay.
brother were born 7 years after me. And she said,
Mhm.
talk to your sheikh and ask him to make dua for me. And I did
Wow.
speak to one of my sheikh, and direct sheikh of mine, very
Uh-huh.
direct, very
Oh,
spiritual, very spiritual. And I asked
right.
him to make dua for my mom, for me to have a sister. And would you believe, at
Wow.
the age of 40, my mom conceived my sister? Very
Wonderful.
interesting. So it's,
Subhanallah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a whole story. It's a whole world that went
That,
on here.
that's
And
amazing.
and that brought this whole connection, one brother, one sister. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Then
Oh my God.
I came back after studying, 7 years from India.
Uh-huh.
Came back to Trinidad, spent 10 years there. Oh, I got
Mhm.
married in India, and my
Oh, you
mother,
got married.
yes, my mother
Okay.
insisted that I should get married, and I also
Okay.
lived that life that I
Uh-huh.
should get married and please my parents. So they said they wanted me to get married in India. So I
And
got
how old were you when you got married, if you don't
21,
mind me?
21.
21. Okay,
Yeah,
mashallah.
and Dr. Sheba, it was a
Uh-huh.
totally arranged marriage.
Wow.
And I did
Okay.
not say a forced marriage because my parents were in Trinidad. My mom said, I want you to get married and bring back a girl from India, and that's
Oh,
what it is. I said,
mhm.
no, I think I want to get married in Trinidad. My mom, her pressure went up and she went to the hospital. Could you?
Really? Oh,
Yes.
that's a good way to get you to listen, huh?
Listen, that's the kind of emotion I'm talking about. I could
Yes, of
not
course.
tell my mother that I'm going to get married in Trinidad. And
Wow.
I had to get married in India. So I spoke to my sheikh, and my
Uh-huh.
sheikh said, okay, and arrangements were made, and I got
Wow.
married. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
All to and listen, I did not see. I only saw the girl, the real kind of movie thing. She was there
Yes.
in a kitchen or in a living room. I went the veranda, and
Wow.
my friend brought her.
Uh-huh.
My friend wife brought her, and my
Okay.
friend's home with her mother. So she came with her mother to my friend's home. His wife brought her in the living room. Me and my
Wow.
friend in the veranda. We had to just see. You know,
Okay.
it did not come so close that she brought the tea for us. No, no, no. I had to
I,
see.
from a distance.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. And
Oh,
well, it all happened. And today, Alhamdulillah, we have six children.
um,
Six children.
alhamdulillah.
And but
Mashallah.
why did I
Uh-huh.
mention that? When I came back with my parents, there was no
Uh-huh.
question of me going to live somewhere else. That thought could not
Uh-huh.
exist. My parents could not entertain that thought.
So your wife knew that when she's gonna go back with you, she's gonna be living with your parents, right?
And that's how her family lived.
Yes.
Her
Okay.
brother, she had one brother and I think five sisters, and that brother lived with his wife, with her
I
parents. And
okay.
that was the bond. It was
Yeah.
I know I'm talking, you see,
Still?
a lot of people look at me as very modern and very liberal, but listen, I have a very traditional background, very
Yes.
traditional background. And, you
Certainly.
know, as we were speaking about media, I love the balance. I love it. I really
Yeah.
love the balance in life. And I
Yeah.
can share that. So I got married to a girl that I only said assalamu alaikum to after we got married.
Oh my goodness, that was it.
That
Just a
was
salam.
it. After we got married, after the nikah, it
Yes.
was then I started to speak. And could you
That,
imagine a
yes, and
foreign
that
girl in a foreign language?
yes, oh my goodness. But mashallah, you've had such a successful marriage, mashallah, with that beginning. And that's what's so important for people to understand.